Hi guys, and welcome back to this journey towards excellent exam results. In these shorter revision videos, we are going to be breaking down the different concepts within the GCSE geography specification. The aim of this is to help us understand the concepts better and to give us the information and confidence we need to answer exam questions. In today's video, we are going to be discussing urban change. We will compare Kampala, New York, and Detroit as case studies. Okay, let's get started. So we are now going to look at three case studies that demonstrate urban change. And the first one we are going to begin with is Kampala. Now, Kampala obviously is a representative of a low-income country, and it's a capital city of Uganda. And growth here has mainly been driven by national migration in the form of rural to urban migration as well as natural increase. And Uganda is representative of most LICs or most developing countries because their population is driven mostly by that national migration. They don't have as much international migration, only migration from within. Now, what is causing that migration though? So we have push factors in rural areas that cause people to want to leave those rural areas to move to the urban areas, so to the towns and cities. And some of those push factors include rural isolation. Obviously, those rural areas are remote. They are far removed from everything else. There's very little investment in those areas from the government and from companies and TNCs and so on. And therefore, they lack services, they lack job opportunities, and most people work in farming. And when they work in farming, the income they get from farming is quite low. And that is problematic, and therefore it causes a lot of those people to want to leave those rural areas. Now, the other thing that I don't think that I included here is mechanization of farming. So mechanization basically means that machinery has been introduced to do the farming instead of people doing the work by hand. So, for example, a tractor would do the job that 20 people would do manually. So that would mean that once tractors have been introduced to a rural area, at one tractor, it would mean that 19 people straight away will lose their jobs. And therefore, because one person is enough to obviously drive the tractor, and that would mean 19 people are unemployed. So the rural areas don't have a lot more opportunity for these people to get a job, and therefore they are likely to move to urban areas where they think there is a possibility of job opportunities, and job opportunities that pay better for that matter. So pull factors then in urban areas, not urban areas in this case, but in Uganda, which is the capital, Kampala, which is the capital city of Uganda. So these are pull factors that attract people to Kampala. So there are better services, better job opportunities, there's better pay there, and there's a perception that when people move there, they will have a better standard of living. Okay, so the second case study that we shall look at is New York in USA, and this obviously is representative of a HIC city whose growth is actually increasing. Now, from the graph that we had looked at earlier, that is showing the regions of the world and the rate of their urbanization, we did mention that a lot of HICs are now growing slowly. However, New York is a kind of an exception here because it's growing. It's a city in a HIC country that is growing, whose growth is increasing. And growth here is driven by international migration. So 36% of the population that live in New York are actually foreign born. And this international migration is mostly due to the knowledge economy. And the knowledge economy is a sector of economy that requires specialized skills and knowledge. and a lot of the people that are required in this particular industry have had to be employed from outside the country because the USA is not able to produce all these people with these specialisms. And therefore, obviously, they have to rely on people that are coming from other countries to fill in the jobs for them. And New York has actually focused a lot on expertise in finance, and that is what is driving the knowledge economy there. So the other people that are moving to New York from other countries, and especially Mexico, are unskilled migrants. And these people are also contributing to the international migration. So they do the unskilled labor that a lot of Americans may not be happy to do. Okay, now the third city that we shall be looking at here to demonstrate urban change is Detroit in the USA. So Detroit is a city, obviously in a HIC, that has experienced economic decline. Now, this city here, Detroit, was the hub of car manufacturing. So Ford, the car manufacturer, are actually located here, and I believe that is where the headquarters were. And when the car industry was at its boom, before the 1950s, a lot of jobs were created here in Detroit, and people moved from different parts of the USA to come and fill up those jobs. And so the car industry actually grew very rapidly, and Detroit grew to be one of the largest cities in the USA at the time. However, at around 1950, Detroit began to decline, and the reason for that decline is global shift, because at the time, the car industry in Detroit experienced a lot of competition from car companies from other parts of the world, and they had therefore to restructure their manufacturing, moving some of that manufacturing elsewhere, and also mechanization as well. So the introduction, for example, of robotics in the manufacturing process meant that the robots were doing most of the work, or a good portion of the work, and the people who had been doing that work manually had to be laid off, and that obviously led to deindustrialization and unemployment in Detroit, which obviously led to its decline. In this next slide, we are going to look at 3 case studies that demonstrate urban differences in LICs, MICs, and HICs. And we will be looking at them from the context of the sectors of industry that people work in, and not just the sectors of industry. We'll also be looking at how many people work in the informal sector and how many work in the formal sector as well. Now, the first city we'll begin with is an example of an LIC, and it's one that we have just covered in the last slide, and that is Kampala in Uganda. So in Kampala, 80% of people work in the informal economy. And the informal economy involves jobs that are not registered with the government. Now, however, having said that, the informal sector or informal economy in Kampala, or in Uganda rather, does earn the country half of its annual GDP, which is equivalent to 33 billion US dollars every year. Then 15.4% of people in the country work in manufacturing, and 26.4% of people in the country work in the tertiary or the service sector. Okay, then moving on to New Delhi in India, which is our example of a more middle income country. It is the 37th wealthiest city in the world today in 2025. And again, the number of people that work in the informal sector here is quite high at 75%. And again, it provides 50% of India's GDP. And a lot of the informal sector here in New Delhi is actually in manufacturing, unlike in Uganda where it's mostly street selling, where people sell their wares on the street. Then back again to New Delhi, most people in New Delhi work in the service sector, and it contributes 78% of the city's GDP. So that might be a little bit confusing. So I'm going to try and clarify it just a bit, because we've said 75% in the informal sector and 78% in the service sector. Now, if you think about it, a lot of the jobs that are done in the informal sector are actually service jobs. They are actually service sector jobs, and that's why. So like selling on the street, that obviously is a service that you're offering to people. The selling. So this is why we are saying that the service sector contributes 78% of the city's GDP. Okay, the next city here that we are using for comparison purposes is New York again, and this is to represent the HICs. And in New York, 10% of people work in the manufacturing sector. Now, obviously, that is due to probably the industrialization that has taken place there. As we know, global shift has happened in the richer countries. The industrialization has then followed, and the sectors of the economy have changed. And one of the newer sectors to a lot of these richer economies is the knowledge economy. And in the USA, in New York specifically, 10% of people work in the knowledge economy. And this is a sector of the economy that requires, education and high expertise and, very specialized educational knowledge. So 10,000 to 20,000 people work in the informal economy. And these people work jobs such as cleaning, hotel and catering, construction, and street selling. And the people who work in this informal economy are either migrants or are self-employed people. That brings us to the end of this video on urban change in Kampala, New York, and Detroit. I hope that you have found the information useful. I have also put together videos on all the other subtopics within the challenges of an urbanizing world topic. 2 of them will pop up as suggested videos at the end of this one, and the rest will be in the challenges of an urbanizing world playlist. Thanks once again for joining in this journey towards excellent exam results. All the best, and see you again soon. Bye-bye.